Poetry is written in tears. Fiction with blood. History with invisible ink. Carlos Ruiz Zafon is a contemporary Spanish author and writer of 10 books. He was born in Barcelona in 1964 and currently resides in Los Angeles.
Question 1. Did you like his first novel and why?
I did. It was, I think, for me, Dickens is one of my favourite authors. Mm-hmm. So to read a modern novel that has so many, that reads like a work of Dickens was amazing for me. I really enjoyed it.
He started writing his very first book, El Príncipe de la Niebla, The Prince of Mist, in 1993. This book is about a young boy and his family who are moving away to escape from war, and it was just the start of his writing debut.
The books I've enjoyed the most are the first 3, which are the ones that all link in, the Cemetery of Forgotten Books.
Yeah.
The first one was the one that grabbed me. I liked the atmospheric way that he wrote. I felt I had been moved to Barcelona. I was there. So I like to travel, but obviously can't always do that, but I can travel through books quite a lot of the time, and he set the scene perfectly. You asked why did I choose it in the first place, or which one did I like? Yeah. Well, the cover was the thing that grabbed me just to start with, because I bought that on that was a hardback, and I thought, well, that's the sort of book I like. I looked at the back; it was sort of pre or post-war, pre-Civil War. It was around that time, so that's a really interesting time. And I love discovering the history of a place and the culture of the place, but gaining that atmosphere from his writing, and he took you straight there. You were in the book. So, but that continued through all 3 of those the first 3 books that in that series. Mm-hmm. Each time you were placed in that moment of time.
Carlos Ruiz Zafon has been nominated and won many different awards, and his first best-selling novel, coincidentally, was from his novel debut. La Sombra del Viento, The Shadow of the Wind, talks about a young boy named Daniel Sempere and his experience with the forgotten cemetery of books, and how it takes place over his journey, and how it changes his life in ways he couldn't predict.
Compared to other books that you may have read, anything distinctive about Carlos Ruiz Zafon's way of writing? Like, is the structure different compared to other books, and description of the whole scenes that he does to you? Absolutely.
I think this was the range of influences that were in this book. I can't talk about his work in general because this is the only one that I've read.
Yeah, which is fine.
But as I said, I'm a massive fan of Dickens. So the fact that we have kind of Daniel's story as a Bildungsroman, as his life story, is whenever you see somebody go from a child to an adult and you see that character arc, that's something that I really like, and that's something that's kind of very similar to, say, David Copperfield. Mm-hmm. And also similar to Dickens is his use of names. So we've got Clara, which is a very Dickensian name, and her whole character, in fact, the blindness and all of that she's a very Dickensian character.
His description is fantastic. Mm-hmm. So I'm there. I relate to the characters, not in so much as I'm a 12-year-old boy in Barcelona, not so much, but they're in like places. They're relatable, and you can see why things are going to happen, or why they're in that situation. They're very rounded characters in that he describes them extremely well. Not necessarily, just kind of a physical description, which you get anyway, but he will talk about their experience, and you can say, oh, that's had the impact there, or there might be a little bit of mystery hanging on there. Yeah. What's going on here? Where's this person? I think it's the full, it's the full package. if
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
literally.
Yeah, there are characters that you don't necessarily like, but you react to, so they're real.
Carlos Ruiz Zafon has a particular liking for science fiction, fantasy and horror, most notably the books of Stephen King and Peter Straub. Their books have influenced his work and life to this very day. As well as this, he also uses references within his stories, incorporating them into his own novel, like The Third Policeman by Brian O'Nolan.
As I said, there's the magic realism, which is a genre that I love, and it was nice seeing a European Spanish writer use it rather than a South American Spanish writer use it, because obviously you've got the greats, you've got Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who, and obviously to see that kind of work, to see it, because it was such a particular moment in time in literature when people were doing that. It's nice to see that that legacy is still being continued. It's not something that we're consigning to the past, it's something that people are still playing with now. It was wonderful to see that in this book.
Especially if you look at the very last book, the one that's set in Calcutta, or the last one I've read, The Midnight Palace. There was a little group of friends, and they all had their roles, and you know, doing the job we do, we were surrounded by young people, young adults all the time, and just looking at the way they were interacting with each other. That was, it was a very short, sweet book. Well, slightly disturbing, but it was, again, you felt you were getting the full story. He thought about everything. He had the setting, he had the characters. The story was good in itself. It related to different times as well, like I say, all of his books do. It's not all in the present. There's something that's gone on. We're not quite sure where. There's a supernatural feel to it. There's a sort of gothic overview of everything as well. But yeah, I say the different chronologies. It's fantastic. I love books like that.
I gave myself up to the freezing rain, going nowhere in particular. I walked with my eyes downcast, carrying with me the image of Nerea Montford, lifeless, stretched out on a cold marble slab, her body riddled with stab wounds. I passed a crossing with Calais Fontella and didn't stop to look at the traffic lights. It was only when a strong gust of wind hit my face that I turned to see a wall of metal and light hurtling towards me at full speed. At the last moment, a passerby pulled me back and moved me out of the bus's path. I gazed at the metal behemoth that shimmered only an inch or two from my face. What could have been certain death speeding by, a tenth of a second away. By the time I realised what had happened, the person who had saved my life was walking away over the pedestrian crossing, just a silhouette in the grey raincoat. I remained rooted to the spot, breathless. Through the curtain of rain, I noticed that my saviour had stopped on the other side of the street and was watching me under the downpour. It was the third policeman, Palacios. A thick wall of traffic slid by between us, and when I looked again, Officer Palacios was no longer there.
Next stop was the ostentatious building of the Bar Asocian in Cala, Mallorca, only a few streets away. Beneath a series of glass chandeliers, I climbed the wide steps that were guarded by what looked like a statue of justice, but with the bosom and attitude of a parallelo starlet. When I reached the secretary's office, a small, mousy-looking man welcomed me and asked how he could help. "I'm looking for a lawyer." "You've come to the right place. We don't know how to get rid of them here. There seem to be more every day. They multiply like rabbits."